We'd like to thank BetChrisCanada.net for their support of the Hockey Betting Podcast. I'm Brian Blessing in sunny Las Vegas.
And I'm Cam Stewart in cold Toronto, Canada.
If you love hockey and you're in Canada, and Cam is, by the All-Star break, even if you can't stop thinking about taking a vacation someplace sunny and warm, but you don't want to miss out on any of the hockey action, look for a BetChris near your next holiday destination.
BetChris is one of the leading sports books in the Western Hemisphere, with hundreds of sports betting locations throughout the Caribbean and Latin America.
Watch the game at a BetChris location. Food and drink specials and VIP lounges are available at many BetChris locations. Use the promo code PODCAST when you open your BetChris account.
Place some bets on your game and collect your cash at the window when the game is over.
BetChris offers single bets, parlay bets, teasers, and more on pregame and live odds for hockey and all your favorite Canadian and American sports leagues. And BetChris offers a variety of team and player props, including futures.
BetChris offers the best value odds on Canadian and international sports. Use the promo code PODCAST when you open up your account at a BetChris location. Deposit $750 or more and get up to a 40% reduced commission on your sports bets, up to minus 106 on single bets and parlay bets. That's the best juice in the biz.
So, if you're planning a trip to exotic locations from the Caribbean and Mexico to Peru and almost everywhere in between, the odds are very good. There's a BetChris Sportsbook where you're going on holiday. For more information about visiting a BetChris location while you're on holiday, or to listen to or subscribe to the Hockey Betting Podcast, visit BetChrisCanada.net. That's BetChrisCanada.net. Cam, you're Canadian. When you leave Canada and you're heading south, use the promo code PODCAST.
You're listening to the Hockey Betting Podcast, presented by BetChrisCanada.net. This is the Hockey Betting Preview for Monday, November 11th, 2019. And now, live from Las Vegas, the host of the Hockey Betting Podcast, Brian Blessing.
It's another one of our absolute favorite segments. We love talking hockey. It's the best sport to bet. Numbers that are out there, that things fall through the cracks, and scheduling situations that just rear their ugly heads, and history repeats itself. And just another week last week in the NHL. We picked some nice winners for you last week. We're going to dive in. We're going to try to do it again. But all of a sudden, Brian Blessing in Las Vegas, Cam Stewart up in the Toronto neck of the woods, where things are heating up. The Leafs, Cammy and I were talking just before we went on the air. I would just throw this out there. They're under heavy pressure right now. They lost back-to-back games to the Flyers, lose to the Blackhawks, and that ain't good. And you're looking at the schedule coming up for the Toronto Maple Leafs, Cammy, at the Islanders, host Boston, at Pittsburgh. We don't know what Crosby's status is. At Vegas, at Arizona, at Colorado. You know, this Toronto team, this is a critical stretch for them right now. It's one thing to be a little dysfunctional and have a soap opera and the coach and the GM don't get along and visiting players are telling you what's wrong with your team and all. But I got news for you. You can't mess around in the Atlantic Division this year. And if they go on a skid here, you know, teams can play themselves out of the playoffs in October and November.
No, you're right, Brian. It's not panic time yet, but it's getting close. Marner's out for 4 weeks. It's a real problem. The defense still sucks. They have no backup goaltender. Freddie Anderson needs a night off. What happens with Hutchison? He lets 3 goals in on like the first 5 or 6 shots against the Blackhawks. They lose that game because of a horrible first period, a game that they need to win. Not even getting regulation points. It's a problem. That is a murderer's row. The Islanders, Penguins, you talked about it. Vegas is going to be in a pissed off mood. This is a bad, bad scene. And I talk about it. You know, Mike Babcock and the players, I get it. There's been problems. He's calling out the players. The players aren't happy. There's dysfunction with the GM. I get it. But you know what? He is also the highest paid coach in the National Hockey League. And we've talked about this before. I watch teams like the Islanders find ways to get it done with Barry Trotz. It's like, okay, dude, start earning your money here. These guys better figure it out. But you're right, Brian. The Leafs have a big, big problem right now. They're not taking care of business. Brutal. They're lucky to beat the Flyers in a shootout. Then they lose to them the next time. Like, It's unacceptable. If you're the Toronto Maple Leafs, one of the Stanley Cup favorites, you shouldn't be playing this bad. And now without Marner, good luck.
Well, I'm telling you, the amazing thing about the game in the season is a grind. It's 82 games.
It is.
And all that matters is be one of 8 in your conference. It really, at the end of the day, that's all that matters. But how quickly fortunes can change. Go back a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, Buffalo's number 1 overall, off to a lightning fast start, lose 5 in a row. They're all the way down now to 5th in the division, and they would be out of the playoffs. The Golden Knights, honestly, have been just a travesty in their own end all season long. And you go and get they were lucky to beat Columbus at the start of road trip. They get murdered by the Caps and then squander a game with 36 seconds left against the Red Wings of all teams. All of a sudden, here's a Vegas team that is all of a sudden questioning themselves. The roller coasters of form in this league, that's where the money is to be made.
No, you're absolutely right. It's funny, Brian, you're in Vegas and I'm here, and I look at the Leafs in Vegas and they have the same type of problems, right? They have a bad back end and they're just not playing up to potential right now. It's unbelievable stuff. And, you know, Vegas has been living the honeymoon for a while. Your first year, you go to the Stanley Cup final, almost win, and now reality's setting in. It's tough. It's a damn tough league. And these guys, they can't just, the back end is really killing these guys. The defense stinks, and the Leafs defense stinks too. These teams better figure it out. 2 of the better teams in the league at the start. It's been a different type of year, man. This is the thing about the NHL. There's a lot of parity. You can't take nights off because anybody could beat anybody. You saw it. Detroit taking out Vegas. It's unbelievable.
All right. We only have 2 games.
Yep.
On a Tuesday night. And the funny thing is, normally I wouldn't lose sleep over either one of these. Washington, $180 against Arizona. The total is 6. Ottawa, Carolina. That's not putting anybody's, hair ablaze.
Carolina's another team. Brindamore called these guys out. Right?
They're playing bad.
Pissed. They're pissed. Like
minus 240.
Yeah, I don't want to lay the price, but they're going to beat Ottawa tonight. If they know what's good for them, because that coach called out the players, and it's a very similar situation to Vegas and Toronto. Carolina they were off to a hot start, and they've really stumbled lately. I don't like to lay 240, Brian, but I could find a dance partner, a parlay partner. Carolina should be able to get it done, or what you do. Maybe you lay the 1.5 to plus money, plus 110, minus 1.5.
Well, in Arizona, here we go again. Just when you think this team, they tease you, they're heading the right way, and then they lose 3 in a row.
Yep.
And now they get out of Dodge again. Now they're cross country, and you're walking into a buzzsaw. But I will tell you, Cam, I am watching these Washington games. There is nothing to at some
point.
They
look amazing.
This is not the team, obviously, against Arizona to hang a 7. But when the right matchup comes up, you got to make these games 7. They are on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yes, I can count. 9, 0-1,
yep.
10, 0-1, 11, 0-1 to the over. And this Washington team, Cam, I hope he's saying, okay, I'll run with it because he's winning games. But it's like watching, and I mean it, not talent-wise, but stylistically, it's the Central Red Army. They're sending 5 guys in, and they're producing goals like they're going out of style, but they keep hanging their goalie out to dry, facing a dozen odd-man rushes a night. So it's working. I don't know that it works in the playoffs, but right now, they're just throwing the sink at the other teams.
Yeah, Ovechkin's telling the Leafs how to not play if you want to win a Stanley Cup. Washington's playing a crazy brand of hockey, but it's working. Yes, if you bet totals and you like overs, this is your team. Another team, Florida, Brian, that we've talked about since we started these shows. They're overs all day long. You saw over the weekend to the New York Rangers 6-5 game. We were on the over there. This game is 6. How do you not take the over, right? Because Arizona's still good for a few goals too, don't you think? In this hockey game, and Washington might put up a 5 or a 6 burger on these guys.
Well, but Arizona doesn't want to play that way.
They don't. But here's the problem. Force them to play that way.
That's exactly it. Here's the problem. The one thing that happens in these games is Washington sucks everybody into playing that game.
Yes, they do.
The only team. It will be very interesting. When the Islanders play Washington. Because the Islanders force teams to play a half-court kind of game.
True.
That will be interesting to see which really good style gets the advantage. But right now, Washington against virtually everybody. These games are going up and down the ice, and I don't care if it's Arizona. The number should be 6.5.
I agree. I think we're going to take the over. I lean Washington too, just because they've been on fire. And Arizona's a good story. They're a good young team, but getting a win in Washington is going to be tough. You saw what these guys do to everybody. They dummied Vegas in that game, Brian. They're a good team. I'm not in the general mind, and we've been around the block before. I'm not going to say I never take a favorite. You do the smart thing. You take favorites into puck lines, -1.5, +145, and parlays and things like that's what we try to do. Get a big number, turn it into a plus, but I don't want to step in front of Washington, and I don't want to step in front of the total. The Capitals and the over seem like the right play to me. I really want to make a case for Arizona at 155, and they are a good team, but it's hard to bet against Washington right now.
All right, buddy, let's get to Tuesday where we've got an army of games. Florida is at Boston, and this Panthers team, tons of talent, Cam. I mean,
where's the defense and goaltending though?
None.
These guys are over machine, right?
Bobrovsky's like, what,
he's brutal.
It's not. I don't know that he's brutal. I think they're hanging him out.
He's playing.
They're hanging him out to dry.
They are hanging him out. It's a combination of both. He's not sharp. Florida plays that game too, where they, too much offense, not enough defense. They are hanging him out to dry, but he's not the Sergei Bobrovsky that we know. He's not been sharp. He's let in some real weak goals. Brian, watching a lot of Panther games, but you're right. The style is inducive to overs, and we've talked about it. Washington and Florida, and against Boston. Oh man, Boston too. They haven't played their best hockey. They lost to the Flyers. They're going to be they're going to be in a bad mood. Florida and Boston, this might be like a 6-5 type of game there. I would lean over too, because the Panthers are going to score. That's the style that they like, and Boston's a damn good hockey team, and they'll be able to score a lot on Florida. So this one looks like a shinny game to me, Blessing, for sure.
Then Columbus is at Montreal.
Columbus is a train wreck.
They're a train wreck. The only win they got was they beat the Coyotes 3-2, and I think that was Arizona's first game home from a road trip. And I think that there's that goofball angle. They lost to the Golden Knights, but threw the sink at them. I mean, Vegas was lucky to get out of Dodge there. But here's a young Montreal team. What would you think, Cam, in the $55.60 range, Montreal?
Yeah. Montreal. Here's the thing about Montreal. I want to take them in this spot. I think they already got Merzlikins is going to be confirmed for Columbus in the net there, Brian. Like, I don't even know. You know much about this guy?
No.
That's the thing, right? Carey Price versus some second, basically third-string goaltender, it almost seems like, for Columbus. I will be putting Montreal in a lot of parlays, or I'll lay them on the puck line. They should be able to take Columbus out to the woodshed in this game. And let's give some credit to one thing. We talked about this team at the start of the year. I know they're not on the sched for Tuesday, but what a successful road trip by New Jersey, going out to Pacific Canada and getting it done, Brian. If they get any type of goaltending, the Devils seem to be a play-on team. They've been making people some money as dogs this week.
For outstanding information and special offerings and promotions, we invite you and encourage you to sign up for our newsletter today simply by going to the website betchriscanada.net. All right, then an interesting one, Colorado and Winnipeg. Colorado gets a pass because they're
banged up,
a mash unit.
Yep.
And they lost 5 in a row, but bounced back and put a 9 spot on the Preds and then beat the Jackets 4-2.
Yep.
So I think they're going with, listen, I think Bednar knows what he's doing. I think he just opened this thing up and said, we're going to use our speed. And I think they're playing at a breakneck pace until everybody gets back, thinking that's the best way for them to go. And I'm wondering if the over's not the play in this game with the Jets on Tuesday night.
It's tough, though, Brian, because Winnipeg's changed their stripes, right? They used to be an over team at the start of the year, and then Paul Maurice has taken so much attention to defense with that team, and they play a lot of unders. That's the thing about the Jets, but you're right. Colorado, to be successful, they have opened it up. So I would lean to the visiting team in this spot and the over, because if Colorado's going to beat Winnipeg, they are going to want to play it up. Winnipeg's going to want to tighten it up, but that's the thing. Every game can't go over, but you're right. The Avalanche have been successful when they played that brand of hockey.
What do you make of the Canucks, Cammy? They've lost 4 in a row.
Yeah,
they got off to the grid.
Kind of like your Arizona. They've been a little bit not as good as they were before. They're still a good team. There's going to be some growing pains there with the young team at home. Disappointing game against the Devils, Brian. I still think they're good. I still think they're a play-on team, but you know what? It's just the inconsistency with these clubs. That's the problem, right? They have a lot of good young players, but the NHL season's a grind, and they've been beat down a little bit. I don't know. That's a tough spot against Nashville. I was going to ask your opinion on that game. That one's kind of like a pass for me. I'd probably lean to the Predators.
Well, what are you thinking here? The Preds about 20 cents, maybe?
Yeah, I'd say about 20, 25 cents. Yeah, definitely.
You know what? I could see goals in this game. I think the total's probably 6. I think you might see some goals. Nashville's got to be kicking themselves. They lose to the Sharks 2-1. The Sharks are a mess.
Yep, they are. They are an absolute mess. What about Detroit and Anaheim there, Brian? That's another. You want to talk about a dog's breakfast? Edmonton went into Anaheim there and just absolutely kicked the crap out of these guys. Connor McDavid, highlight reel material again. The Oilers are a very, very weird team. They're playing the Sharks, but I don't know what to make of this Detroit team. They're brutal when they show up, and Anaheim at home. The reality's starting to set in with the Ducks, Brian. They had a nice little start, but they're starting. The real stripes are showing. They're not that good of a team.
Well, and the thing is, the goalie is spectacular.
Yeah, Gibson's great.
But the 3 losses in a row, they lose 3-2 to the Blackhawks, 4-2 to the Wild, who, by the way, are a dead-over team now.
Yep.
And they lost 6-2. These are all at home. 6-2 to the Oilers. Anaheim is in their own end. I don't know what's going on there. They got a bunch of orange cones back there.
Yeah, no, their defense is awful. They shouldn't have got rid of all those guys. Remember, Brian, they used to have the cupboard bare. They'd have like 4 or 5 extra guys waiting in junior. They get rid of all their talent. Now they're hanging Gibson guitars out to dry there. Yeah, there's a problem with that team. They give up goals, and you'd look at Detroit and Anaheim and think over, but you actually, under. You might want to think over in that game because Anaheim's defense has been so damn putrid, Brian. And Minnesota, you talked about the Minnesota Wild used to be, 2-1 games, 1-0, boring. Like they were a boring hockey team, but yeah, they go up and down. They get no goaltending. They like to play a shinny game, and against the Kings, oh God. I probably I'll lean Wild in the over in that game. Like, it sounds like the way we're talking, we want a big piece of salami on Tuesday night. Salami over. Go see your local butcher.
That's one way.
Everywhere we're talking salami over. Florida, Boston, we're talking. Sounds like we got a lot of overs, Brian. A lot of meat in the diet.
Well, we'll reconvene on Thursday, but Wednesday night we got 5 games. Among them, Washington, who we've been talking
Philly?
about.
Oh God!
Is it Philly? Do you think you see a 7?
There has to be a 7 there because the Flyers score and they give up. That's one thing about Philly. You want to talk about defense too? That's another team, man. All their defensemen are offensive guys, right? Their goal.
How about them though? They've won 4 in a row, 5 of 6.
I know. Philadelphia. Hey, they took the Toronto. They played well. They're getting it together. Here's Philadelphia. It's pretty simple, Brian. They're not that bad of a team. They have good veterans on that team. Their special teams is dangerous still with Giroux and Voracek and all these guys. Hell, they're doing it without Patrick too. He's still hurt. They're not that bad of a team. If they get any type of goaltending from Carter Hart, that's the problem. Brian Elliott's not the story. He's been a backup most of his career, but Hart is a guy that they believe in. If he can get streaky, he's a young guy, then the Flyers become a play-on team, and they've been playing a lot better lately.
All right, Pally, wrap it up with this. Here's my prediction. Waited all summer long. Nothing happened at the draft table because everybody was waiting for the restricted free agents to sign, and nobody signed until the 11th hour. And you're waiting for the deals, and you're waiting for the deals. And there were a couple little tinker toy moves. And then, of course, now you start the season, and teams have cap issues. But there are a lot of teams now that are on the precipice of going one way or the other. Buffalo's got to get some scoring. They've got a plethora of defense. Vegas,
no defense.
Well, Vegas needs they need a spark, and they need something in their own end, whether it comes now or at the deadline. But Anaheim, do they start selling now? But Anaheim is desperate for defensemen. You've got Toffoli's name that's out there in LA. I think my prediction is in the next 2 weeks before Thanksgiving, I think there'll be 2 or 3 moderately significant trades in the NHL because I do believe this is a critical stretch for a lot of teams where their season can go off a cliff.
What about the Leafs? Look at the Leafs and their situation. You have no Marner there, Brian, with that defense. I know Tavares has come back, but they need a blue liner too.
I know they do, but they will hear, and I don't. I'd say
a lot of teams need a defenseman.
If Marner was healthy, maybe Nylander, but I'm watching this kid. He ain't worth what they paid him.
No, he's not. He's
the Ryan Fitzpatrick of hockey. He had a good month and got $64 million.
You're absolutely correct. He's one of those players, Brian. He looks better than he actually is. You know, he'll have those games where he looks absolutely fantastic. Then he'll be a ghost for 3 or 4 games, way overpaid. It's true. There's going to be a lot of these GMs. They got to get their heads together because, man, there's some good teams that are lacking a defenseman if they want to take it over the top.
All right. Good stuff, Cam, as always.
Fun time, Brian.
We'll know more by Thursday. It's kind of a weird little start to this week.
It's a weird week. Yeah, exactly.
It's a weird week. And the funny thing is, usually we sit here and rattle off 4 or 5 things with conviction. I think we had a couple in here that we like. I mean, Washington's a dead over team. We didn't really discuss them, but Minnesota is also, at the moment, a dead over team.
True.
Find your spots. Usually we've got a buffet of stuff. I think we're treading lightly, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's an 82-game slate. I think we'll be back ready to fire the guns on Thursday.
Big time. No, it's a really weird week, and we have to see how it plays out. And a lot of teams are in weird streaks too, Brian. We got to see if these bad streaks are going to continue, or are they going to snap out of it? It's just been a very interesting week. But we'll say this too: Philadelphia is playing a lot of overs. The Florida Panthers are playing a lot of overs. And your stat about Washington Capitals, these guys just keep on firing, and you throw the Minnesota Wild in that mix too, Brian.
All right, buddy. Hey, at least we can tell you this. It's hockey weather. It's snowing outside Cammy's humble abode.
Brr, brr. Yeah, it's cold, buddy. It's cold. I got to go and shovel the driveway while you go play golf. Great.
See you, kid.
Have a good one. Have a good one. Blessing. Take care, Brian. Have a good one. Good luck, everybody.
You've been listening to the Hockey Betting Podcast, presented by BetChrisCanada.net.
For outstanding information and special offerings and promotions, we invite you and encourage you to sign up for our newsletter today simply by going to the website, BetChrisCanada.net.
The handicapping and sports odds information contained on this podcast is for entertainment purposes only. Please confirm the wagering regulations in your jurisdiction, as they vary from state to state, province to province, and country to country. Using this information to contravene any law or statute is prohibited. The podcast is not associated with, nor is it endorsed by any professional or collegiate league, association, or team. This podcast does not target and is not intended for an audience under the age of 18. If you think that you have a gambling addiction, stop this podcast now and please seek help.
Gambling and betting on sports is a form of entertainment and should be about having a good time. But when done excessively, it may negatively affect other areas of a person's life, such as their physical and mental health, school or work performance, finances, and or interpersonal relationships. At BetChrisCanada.net and the Hockey Betting Podcast, we're concerned about the addiction that gambling may cause, and for this reason, we encourage everyone to practice responsible gambling, an approach to gambling that helps you ensure that it remains an enjoyable activity. Here are the main principles of responsible gambling. Don't think of gambling as a way to make money. Always gamble with money that you can afford to lose. Set limits and stick to them. Never chase losses. Don't gamble when you're depressed or upset, and create a healthy balance. Always be aware of how much time you spend gambling or thinking about gambling. And do not allow gambling to cause you to miss out on time with family and friends or time spent on other activities you enjoy. By following these guidelines, gambling can be a good time and great entertainment. If you feel at any time that your gambling is taking away from important areas of your life, is causing you stress or depression, or is leading to financial losses that are beyond your control, please reach out for help. Learn more at responsiblegambling.org.